Hi guys, I am Aljan Bruno and I am a third year college student of University of Mindanao under the program of psychology. So I am here now to discuss about um, only a brief discussion about the humanistic psychotherapy. Um, I am basing my discussions only at the book of Andrew M. Pomeranz, which is the Clinical Psychology, and on its second edition. Okay, so let's begin the discussion. Um, when we say humanistic psychotherapy, there are so many people involved in this approach, including Abraham Maslow and Carl Rogers, because they are the pioneering persons in terms of humanistic movement in psychology and also its application, clinical application, I mean. So, but we will be more focused on Carl Rogers. So Carl Rogers, yes, he was trained psychodynamically, but it was not that so long because he was disagreed with Freud. Because for Freud, the therapy is more on making the unconscious mind conscious and the dynamic of the person and the past events of the person. And for Carl Rogers, it is more on self of the client or the person. And when we say humanistic approach, there are so many terms such as non-directive approach, client-centered approach, person-centered approach that is used by Carl Rogers and his followers. But to be more focused on Carl Rogers, we will be using only the humanistic term. So let's talk about the concept of humanistic psychotherapy. So I want you to picture out a plant. So I want you to assume that yes, this plant has this innate tendency to grow or has this potential on its own to grow. And second, I want you to assume that this plant will need a sunlight. Even you don't have to assume because all plants need a sunlight. And third is I want you to assume that if this is the plant and this is the sun, if the sunlight of the sun is not that so directed to the plant because of the shady part of the area where the plant is, so this plant will grow, will bend, will twist its branches, or will find its own way to just to reach out the sunlight. So why am I talking about plants? Yes, according to point of view of humanist people, there are similarities between plants and humans. Yes, yes, like plants, humans are inborn with an innate or potential tendency to grow. Yes, humanists call this tendency as self-actualization. So if the environment of this person fosters or nurtures it, self-actualization or growth proceeds without any hesitation. So humanists believe that humans need a certain thing to live. So like plants need a sunlight, also humans need a certain thing to live. So this thing, humanists call this the positive regard. So for the humanistic point of view, it is a love, warmth, care, and acceptance from those people who surrounds us. So also Carl Rogers used the term prizing as the verb of receiving the positive regard. So for just like example, a child and a parent. This parent will always give a positive regard to his child in order for this child to use this positive regard to grow in its own self. So yes, that is more specific example of the positive regard and the self-actualization. So positive regard, and it will lead to self-actualization. And as we human are growing, there are aspects, or the humanists call this branches of life, will also grow. Like plants, there are branches, like plants or a tree seedlings will grow into a tree. There are branches is too big, there are branches that are too long, too small, or too thin, and there are also branches that is also dying. Okay, let's talk about now the goal of humanistic psychotherapy. Okay, so the primary goal of humanistic psychotherapy is to nurture or foster the self-actualization of its client. Humanists believe that psychological problems, or most a form of psychopathology, are the results of the muted or the stifled growth process. Now, if this growth process is already muted or stifled, or the psychological problems occurred, now the task of the humanist therapist is through the therapeutic relationship. The relationship between the client and the humanist, the humanistic therapist. So this humanistic therapist is to will create a set in which the clients can resume their natural growth towards psychological wellness. Now the question to humanistic aspect is, when will be the problem arise in a person? Okay, so in a humanistic point of view, the problem arises when the positive regard is only limited, or the positive regard is conditional. So it is only, you are given a positive regard only if you will do a certain conditions, or you will satisfy the condition of other people in order for you to receive a positive regard. So because of this limited positive regard, because positive regard can lead to a self-actualization. Now what yes, it is limited. No, it is limited, the positive regard, so the self-actualization will jeopardize. The self-actualization of a person will jeopardize, right? So yes, also after the conditional positive regard satisfied, after the condition satisfied, the incongruence will occur, or the comparison of the real self and the ideal self. So to understand more about the real self and the ideal self, I'll give you an example. So the example is, if the parent of this person wanted him to become a lawyer, so as what I said, a person need a positive regard. So this person will need a positive regard from his parent, and this in order for him to receive the positive regard is to do the condition, which is to become a lawyer. Now let's assume that this person became now a lawyer. Although he became a lawyer, let's assume also that before he became a lawyer, he also discovered or realized that he is more capable, let's say an artist, become an artist. He is more has this potential to become an artist. He has this compassionate in arts, but in order to receive the positive regard, he needs to follow the condition, which is now he became a lawyer. The position of him as a lawyer is his real self, which is more on like sunlight, or the positive regard of a lawyer. But the positive regard of the ideal self, your ideal self, to become an artist is now jeopardized. So the self-actualization is also jeopardized. So yes, after you define the problem, after you define the goal of the therapist, the goal is, yes, to recall it, the goal of the therapist is to foster self-actualization, right? So, but before the therapist do it, there are also conditions to be characterized by the therapist. So according to the book, it is the three essentials therapeutic conditions, or the three elements of the humanistic psychotherapy from Carl Rogers, specifically from Carl Rogers. So for Carl Rogers, the first element is the empathy. Empathy, or the word itself, empathizing. So you are putting your life into the shoes of the client, right? Or putting your situation into client's situation, so that the therapist is able to sense the emotions in a compassionate way. It involves deep and non-judgmental understanding of the client's experiences. So it means if you are involved with the client's experiences, you really need to the client's values or own values of the therapist will be also suspended temporarily, because yes, you are putting the client as the center of the therapy. So yes, it is the client-centered therapy because the client is the center and not you as the therapist. So according to Carl Rogers, is to see the life of the client is through in his eyes. Yes, it will make the client clarified about own feelings for themselves and the confidence of the emotions they experience. And also, because you are empathizing, you will make the client more open to his experiences, and make the client feel valued and supported, and make the client that they are not alone, they have a companion. So you are the one who will empathize to the client as the humanistic therapist. Second is the unconditional positive regard, or UPR, according to Carl Rogers. So unconditional positive regard is because, as we define the problem of the client, the positive regard is the main concern, because the positive regard is conditional, right? So you need to give a positive regard that is unconditional, that is way different from what he has experienced from the past. So you will give a unconditional positive regard. It is a full acceptance of another person no matter what. So you need to accept the client no matter what his emotions, his experiences, his position is right now. So you need to accept it, because yes, as what I said, it is the client is the center of the therapy. So imagine the what I said is the metaphor of the plant and the human, right? So the plant need the sunlight, also the human need the positive regard. So the problem of the client is the absence of the positive regard, or he used to use the conditional positive regard. So as the therapist, you need to give a fully unconditional positive regard. So they are free to be yes, as the result of this unconditional positive regard, they are free to be wholly true to themselves without relying on others. Because of this positive regard, it will make the incongruence to congruence. That's what I said. Incongruence is the comparison between the ideal self and the real self, right? You are confused about your real self and ideal self, and you experience the incongruence. Now, if the therapist gives a unconditional positive regard, then it will convert the incongruence to congruence, in which the congruence is um, the match between the ideal self and the real self. You sees it different. You sees it openly between the real self and the ideal self. So because of this congruence, it will also lead to self-actualizations, or it allows the client to grow in a purely self-directed way. So that is the UPR, or unconditional positive regard. The last element, the last element of Carl Rogers' psychotherapy is the although empathizing and UPR are both present in your characteristic as a humanistic therapist, but even though they are present, but the honesty is not true. You are not honest about your client, then it is useless. So yes, what I'm trying to say is the therapist must be therefore be genuine, be transparent, be honest in the therapeutic relationship. So the last is the genuine, the last element. So yes, as what I said, it is honesty, transparency, and genuineness. So don't act as if you are empathizing the client. Don't act as if you prize the client unconditionally, because it will lead more ambiguous to the client because of your honesty. So in this genuineness, Rogers and others also coined the therapist congruence. So the therapist must also see the difference between the real self and the ideal self, and also yes, the match of them between the real self and the ideal self. So the therapist is more open about the real self and the ideal self. For example, the client will see his therapist as an ideal, as a fit therapist for the problem of the client. So as a result, the client will be more engaged in therapeutic relationship. It will feel the client that the relationship is real, and because of the relationship is real, then the client will be more engaged in the therapy. So that is the three elements of the humanistic psychotherapy of Carl Rogers. So first, the empathy, the unconditional positive regard, and the genuine.